Okay, trying this out on the iPad that has all the storage space. The other one stopped me short, and I think that's because I ran out of storage. Um, well, let me get back to what I was saying, or I was. You didn't even know what I was saying because I didn't publish it. Um, from now on, I'm just if I've got anything to say that's unless I I am struck with the reason the idea to talk um, philosophically and stuff like that. I'm probably going to stick that in a 2D, or I'm going to stick most of that philosophical talk into the 2D realm here, and the 3D realm is what's going to get all my seeing and going around to various sorts of places. Like I might go to the zoo. I don't know. It's a long ways away, or I might find something nearby that's close to a zoo or an equivalent. I would wonder if people have ever thought about doing that, like having like, that's what the Fort Worth Zoo needs to do is they need to distribute their zoo around and put it in various places around the town, have like little mini zoos, and then have the main zoo in the center of town. I think I'll put that on Reddit and let them know that would be something else. And it wouldn't be like mini zoos. It would just be like critter getter type zoos, where people they capture like goats, and I mean they have goats, and they would have like what do they call them, the things that get in your trash, the raccoons. They'll have raccoons. Might have a bear. Just things that are easier to manage as far as the zoo is concerned. Not endangered species animals, just animals. Because any kind of animal can be a zoo animal, such as a squirrel. I mean, you shouldn't have to go to the pet stores to see animals because the animals in pet stores are just they're so small, and they're probably non-existent because the employees don't really have the time to manage them. All you'll ever see is people bringing in their dogs and cats. So you won't ever get to see a goat that screams or anything like that. And there are probably places around. I just haven't gone and searched for them. But in Los Alamos, where my hometown, which is the home of the atomic bomb, down around there was a house, and I think it's still there. Um, it's somewhere down Walnut. It's not Walnut. It's the one that intersects to Walnut. Um, Dang, I forget the name of that street. But there's a house down there in that area of town that is pretty much all devoted to creatures that a group called the Critter Getters, they would fill their house with all the critters that they would capture, and they would do it for a fee. So if they needed to get a raccoon, they would charge a fee to come out get the raccoon, and they would put it in their home, and like if it needed some feeding or whatever, and then they would put it out in the wild, or I mean, if the raccoon had some sort of problem. And so they were keeping all these animals inside of their house and in cages and whatnot. And the ones that didn't need cages, they just walked around everywhere, and that was like they had this goat that was jumping up on garbage can lids, and they also had snakes, and they had spiders, and I'm sure it probably lowered the land value of all the homes next to them, because or raised the value. It depends on the kind of people that would want to live next door to somebody that had just nothing but snakes, and in their front yard they had a one of those tiny miniature ponies, miniature horses, and just walking around. And that was kind of the town's idea of a zoo, because there's space is limited in Los Alamos. It's a bit like Manhattan. There's so much there's so much less space. There's really nowhere you can build anything without going into another county, and so the cost of land, the cost to build houses and stuff like that is kind of out of reach for most people in New Mexico. It's easier to live in Albuquerque, find a place to live in Albuquerque, than it is in Los Alamos. And when we got our house sold, I think it was about $500,000 is what it went for, and all it was it was basically just one long house, had a flat roof. Then we turned it into a pitched roof. I can tell you the exact address. It's 2774 Walnut Street, and that's where I lived. We had the whole house. We had the whole backyard, and man, that was a great place to live. And you had the canyon in back, and you could go down in the canyon and walk to the library or walk to the high school, and you also walk up to there's Horse Mesa. I call it Horse Mesa, and then there's North Mesa, or not North Mesa, Bronca Mesa, and everybody pretty much that lives on the mesas have nice homes. Some of them have really, really nice homes. One of the homes was filmed in the making of a movie that had Michael Keaton. It was Michael Keaton and trying to recall her name. I think she was in Groundhog Day. Andie MacDowell. It was Michael Keaton and Andie MacDowell, and there was some certain shot in the film that was filmed in a house inside of Los Alamos. And the reason why you would probably want to do that shot in Los Alamos is if you wanted a home that overlooked a mesa, because that's kind of rare. Because having homes on mesas is pretty rare. I mean, you don't often find that. And so there's like all these homes in Los Alamos that are out on mesas. And I think I would have to really go around New Mexico looking for places where people put homes on mesas, because usually they don't. And probably the reason why is because if the mesas are made of lava rock, and they probably could erode. I don't know. They do erode because rocks are falling all the time, And what's holding those rocks together is basically sand. That's all the tufa is. And anyhow, I don't live in Los Alamos anymore. I live in the flattest, the flattest chest area of the world, Texas. I mean, the girls. It's kind of like the girls sucked the mountains out of the soil and into their breasts. So it's like the women have big breasts, but the entire state is like flat, So somehow they had to compensate for that difference. And I don't know if I could say that about New Mexico, but I'd have to think about that for a while. There are some Indian girls out there that have some pretty big breasts, I have to admit. American Indian girls. Spanish girls, yeah, definitely. Uh, I went to UNM, and if you go down to UNM and you find out what the the proportion of white people to American Indians and Spanish, it's like 25 to 30% white people, and the rest are Indian, and even foreigners. So it's a very diverse campus, and and that's what I grew up. So somebody said I was a racist. I said, well, it would be really hard for me to go to school at UNM and be a racist. We didn't have that many black people, but we there was a heck of a lot of Spanish and American Indians there, and you know I may be overcompensating for the amount of white people that were there, but um, I think I did. I think I should have said it was more like 50% or 60%, but I would want to think that it was well diverse. Um, and the reason why I went to UNM was because it was cheap. It's cheaper than my brothers who went to Abilene Christian University, and I had heard so much bad stuff about ACU that I just decided there's no reason for me to go to university, even if it does claim to be Christian. And so I went to a liberal secular uh, government state university, and public university. And what we were known for, what was the greatest thing in the University of New Mexico? Their cafeteria was number 3 in the country once, and I have to admit they had some pretty good breakfasts. Um, you never got at the cafeteria. You never got anything um, normal. You got something. You got some pretty abnormal food, like they would have hot dogs one night, and if people didn't eat the hot dogs, then the next day they'd turn the hot dog buns and the meat. They'd take the meat and they'd put it into something like chili. And then they'd take the hot dog buns and they'd shred it up and turn it into turkey stuffing for some turkey that they had. And so the idea was is that they would torture you with the food they had presented you the day before, and if you didn't eat it all, then you would get the remnants of what was the day before in a different form. Mm. Yeah, and we had these computer pods all over the campus where people would go to use computers, and a few of the times I got to work as a computer consultant. I would help people out with their computer problems with their Macintosh, PC, whatever we had, Unix machines, X Windows. The strangest computer pod I had ever been in um, was the School of Architecture computer pod, which was Macintoshes. Practically everything in there was Macintosh, and they had the big old plotter. And plotter's just this. It's like a printer, but what it does is it draws lines with markers, and that and so it plots a line, and some that I don't know there people probably don't remember it, but some of the first computer peripherals that you could get for a Commodore 64, one was called a plotter, and you could you could draw line. You could have it draw lines on a piece of paper or something. And I guess there. I don't remember too much about plotters, but I remember that they sold them. That you could buy one, and that's what you would use it for. Is you would get it to draw like diagrams or something, um, computer controlled diagram. But they had a plotter. They had this big old $2,000 plotter. I'm sure they still have plotters. They're probably in the form of just very large printers, and but a plotter would be faster than a printer if you had a very few if you had few lines to draw. There's no reason to print up a big massive piece of paper and waste all that ink. It would be better just to draw lines with a plotter. And they had various sorts of Macintoshes, but they were not they were the '90s style Macintoshes, the ugly Macintoshes, the ones that, I mean, they really were ugly. I mean, the first Macintosh looked kind of cool, but every Macintosh after that just looked like a white box, a bit of a just basically a brick of white with some and it was and they're all beige. They weren't anything great to look at. And though the Apple people would show them off, and put them up on pedestals and everything, those PC guys thought, yuck, who would ever want to buy something that looks like that, And as PC guys, we just get a regular box, and it wasn't presentable. You just stick it behind put it under your desk, and that was where it sat. And if you wanted something pretty, you could play. I just noticed I got a ton of hairs on the back of my neck. Also, I haven't shaved in a while. The reason why not to shave, and some women might not understand this, you shave really closely, eventually you're going to get a cut. Especially if you use a really old razor, because after some point in time, they get kind of rough, and then you're gonna nick yourself. Anyhow, what I was really going to talk about was diets. And I could go on a diet, and people would say, why don't you go on a diet? You lose some weight. And I've been thinking about it, and I've thought to myself, does it make any sense for Christians to go on diets? Because wouldn't that say that you have a lust for life, that you found that you're following the things of the world? So if you're in the world but not of the world, what's of the world? People that are chasing after living a long life, and the reason why they do that is because they want to attain more wealth or something. They want longevity. The people that are, I think what would really speak it is the people that are going for genetic engineering. Those are the people that that I would say have this. They want to be here. They have a love for life and stuff like that. And I think what was common in the Jewish tradition was fasting. And I've got a friend in alt space. His name is Al, and his preference is he stays away from processed foods, and he stays away from, oh my goodness, he stays away from sweets. Because if you stay away from sugar or you stay away from any of the sweets. Pretty much everything is out the window. You could have stevia, but I think that's still processed to some extent. So he just doesn't eat sweets at all. All he eats is fruit, and he says it's now to the point to where he can tell if stuff like hot sauce has sugar in it. He can detect sweetness in things that people usually can't tell as sweet. Like spicy sauces, he can tell if they got sugar in them. I mean, super super spicy. Stuff that burns your mouth off. To him, he puts it on everything, and he can tell when it's got sugar in it, and he tries to stay away from that. There was a movie called The Machinist with Christian Bale, and Christian was required. I mean, as with any actor, to get a part, they're willing to go to extremes to get that part. And if you have to lose weight, what he did is he asked around, and somebody said coffee and apples, and that's one way to do it. And I said that to him, and he says, "Oh, that makes perfect sense, because coffee is a natural is a natural." I don't know if it was him that confirmed this, but said coffee is a hunger suppressor, and so you drink coffee, and the apples are just a little bit of sweetness to keep you going, and they got some fiber in them, and so I guess he'd have an apple for dinner or something, or either an apple or two apples, but you can make it 3 apples in a day, one for each, or maybe you just eat nothing but apples and drink coffee. But in any case, you're going to lose a lot of weight if you have a diet like that. And so it would be the apple diet. I could probably do that. So I would just be drinking coffee and eating apples all day. And I'm sure I'd probably lose a lot of weight doing that. And apples are low glycemic, and they don't really have a whole lot of sugar in them. You have to grind down a lot of apples before you get the amount of apple juice that people like. An 8-ounce glass of apple juice, I would say, is about 2 or 3 apples. It's 3, 4, something like that. No, it's going to be, say each apple you get about 2 ounces of juice out of each apple. So it would be like 3 or 4 apples. But that was the diet that Christian Bale had to become as thin as he was in the Machinist. Some Christians go on fasts where they will basically just have some Jello, and their meals will be Jello, and and what will get them through the rest of the period of time is coffee or soup, or was it chicken broth or beef broth. I tried to fast once. I did it for 2 days. I mean, that wasn't a very long fast, but I just wanted to see what it was like. And yeah, you can do it. Sometimes you gotta fast, like if you need to clear your bowels out. I don't know. I think I was required to fast for something, or maybe I just did it by myself. I think I was experimenting. I think that's what it was. But I think if my body really challenges my health, which it's not, it is to some extent, but not really. But once I really determine it's really hurting me, I'll go on a fast. and I'll probably do it for 30 days, and then document it on YouTube. All those, you know. But that's the thing is that people go on diets, but they never fast hardly. And what a fast is, the reason why religious people go on fast is because when you go on a fast, you're basically saying that I don't need anything in this world. I don't need any stimulants or I don't need anything to keep me alive. I'm willing to face death, you know. And so you go on a fast, and sometimes when they do fasts is whenever there's not enough food to go around, so they'll feed the children, but the parents will fast because they got all this extra fat on them, and their bodies don't need the nutrition as much as the kids because their bodies are in maintenance; they're not being built, and so in such a way you need to have the kids eating more food than the adults, and also the adults are going to be able to stomach things the kids won't, you know. So that would be a Christian way to do that, is to fast, and so you just drink coffee and eat apples, and the reason why people are so fat is because we're eating lots of sugar and lots of carbohydrates. It's the reason why people are going on keto diets. Is the idea is that that they've been telling people to stop eating saturated fats and all these kinds of fats, and telling people to stay away from fats and eat more carbs. And what they're finding out is that food pyramid is skewed, is corrupt, and that is that carbohydrates were carbohydrates were made a large part of that whenever they shouldn't have been. And so now the pyramid is that you should have few carbohydrates, and you should have a lot of meat and a lot of vegetables. I'd say vegetables would be on the bottom and the meat would be in the center. So more vegetables. A minute. This would be the Mediterranean diet. Some meat, a lot of vegetables, very little carbohydrates. And but there was somebody in the Bible that didn't have any meats at all. All he had was vegetables. So, you know, and there were things in the Bible that said you stay away from blood pudding because you don't want to feed off of the lifeblood of another animal. And it was really just kind of the perversity of how some people try to eat things like I'm going to eat the head of a goat or something, and that would be kind of disgusting because you remember looking at the goat the other day, and then it's dead and now it's on your plate, and you're going to eat it, So the idea is not to eat something, but don't eat it. If I guess the idea is that unless you can eat it without empathizing with it, if you empathize with something you're eating, then and you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. So people that don't want to eat animals, perfectly fine. If you're empathizing with the animal, and if other people are eating animals, and it'd probably be better that your friends don't eat animals around you, if they want to keep your friendship, because obviously you're empathizing with the food they're eating, and so maybe they should make a change in their diet just to satisfy your concern, and maybe that would be a way of them honoring their friendship with you. But, it also says in the Bible, it says that you should, well, basically, Jesus said, you must hate your brother, your sister, your family, even your own life, to follow me. And that means that that nothing should get in the way of trying to follow Jesus, and with me, I'm not saying that I'm like really Christian, because I'm really a bad Christian, because I've pointed out that I've got this problem with porn, and to some extent I'm empathizing with people in the porn industry, and because I can see there are people that don't want to be there, and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would say I just leave that up to Jesus to determine whether or not I am Christian. I'm all I'm doing is I'm just letting other people know kind of what Christians, and possibly really just talking to the Christians themselves and saying that, that these things exist, and so you either do them or you need to look into it, and whether I get saved or not is I'm not gonna be concerned about that. I'm just gonna say what I find in there, and so I'm just not gonna talk to people about sexual stuff. I'm not gonna say, I mean, I've said things about people being in marital relationships and kind of what the Bible says about that. But I've never had a marital relationship, so I wouldn't know. But if I talked about, if I told people that they could do without pornography and abstain and stuff, and I was doing that, and then I was not doing it myself, that would be fall into that category of why clear the speck from brother's eye when you got a mote in your own eye, And the idea is that you don't talk to people about clearing out their problems whenever you got the same problems, And I guess that would be the thing with the diet, I know of the diets. I know the way to lose weight. I've done that diet of eating one Subway sandwich a day, and it does work. What I would do is I'd eat like a foot long every day, and it would be the foot long I really like. It would be the steak and cheese, and I would eat half in the morning, and then I'd eat half at lunchtime, or something like that, or I'd eat it all at lunchtime, and then I would just spend the rest of the day drinking Cokes or something, And I got down to around 230, which for me is pretty low. My target weight's 180, 190, something like that. And the weight I'm at right now is 320, which is 100 pounds. If I had a Subway near me, I would be doing the Subway diet. The problem is I'm living with my parents. I'm living with my mom, and she's fixing these like super carborific meals, and they've got to eat, and she's not going to be able to fix a meal that they want unless it's a normal meal, and they don't like to eat the same thing all the time. So it's kind of like we're eating these family meals, and I'm eating literally 3/4 of that meal, and they're eating the other quarter. So we'll have a full family size lasagna, and you can't have one of those small lasagnas because there just really isn't enough lasagna to it. And so we end up eating like something like a regular lasagna or a family size. What we had today was 4 slices. I had 4 slices of a thin cheese Papa Murphy's pizza with pepperoni, and that was good. We really shouldn't eat that much cheese. But, I think to some degree what I'm saying to myself is, do I really long to be in this world anymore, that I'm going to go on a diet? If I had kids, it would be a different matter, but I don't have kids. So why is there such this lust for life that I need to change my diet? Especially whenever I enjoy this food, and I'm trying not. I mean, if I was dieting around my parents, then we would have to eat separate meals, and that's very difficult to do that. Also, if they got some food hanging around and they don't want to eat it, it's going to go to the critter. And so I guess I just eat it, and I just say fuck diets. And I've had this feeling about eating chicken. My dad told me, and he was diabetic. He said, you can eat chicken, take the skin off, and eat it, without the skin. And I'm kind of like, I'm probably never going to live to be as old as my father was, because we're both diabetic. I'm just going to eat with the skin on. Because why eat chicken if you're not, I mean, what's the pleasure in eating a chicken if you don't have the skin? And the keto diet is probably one I would follow if I really needed to hang around a bit longer. And or just fast or something like that. But that was basically what I was going to talk about in my video. And I did it on my other iPad, and it dropped out on me, and I was getting sick of that. That one iPad's got a lot of space on it, but it doesn't. It's not my primary iPad, and that's the one I'm on right now. I'm kind of, and so anyhow, yeah, I'm gonna stop it.